The public sector wage bill has been rising since 2008 and it's simply no longer affordable. Those are the sentiments shared by the Finance Minister Tito Mboweni, and he has proposed that wages be frozen for the next 3 years. Unions obviously not impressed and are promising to fight the restrictions. Joining us now is well-known Labour commentator and writer Terry Bell. Good afternoon to you. Not a popular call, obviously, by the Finance Minister Tito Mboweni. Did he have a choice?
Well, I think that's a gross understatement there, Jeremy, because in the first place, we should first talk about the fact that the government's refusing to pay an agreed increase, which was already budgeted for 3 years ago. And it's part of a 3-year deal. And this goes to court on December the 2nd, and it's united all the public sector unions for the first time that I can think of in many, many years. Now, I know one shouldn't prejudge the courts, but this does seem a fairly open and shut case of breach of contract. But whatever happens, it's going to cause a great deal of bitterness, and that's before we even start talking about a wage freeze. The unions have already started saying, well, why not start from the top? Why not do what I think 2 years ago President Ramaphosa said he would deal with this extraordinarily bloated cabinet that we have. I mean, we have 63, I think it is, ministers and deputy ministers, and they're very expensive. In fact, I think our president is ranked among the top 20 highest paid presidents in the world. So I think they should have started, I mean, from a public relations point of view, should have started at the top first.
I suppose reneging on a deal like this, then, Terry, is a sign of desperation.
This is a sign of desperation. Basically, they're broke. But the unions are correct in saying it's not their fault. Government's policies have led to this, and the level of corruption that has gone on. To blame it only on the Zuma years is also grossly incorrect. I mean, we've been sliding backwards slowly and steadily. Yes, the 10 years or 9 years of complete corruption and state capture, etc., exacerbated things. But now we have this thing of blaming this virus, COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2. The virus hasn't done it. Much of the reason for the present exacerbation of the previous damage has been because of the inept handling of the lockdown situation by the very government. Again, it's government policy. Yes, they're desperate. Tito Mboweni, I cannot imagine what sort of job he's got, because there's nothing he could really do. And he promised, as we all know, there'd be no more bailouts for SAA. Now we have something that's called not a bailout. I still can't work it out. I'm sure the unions can't either, and it's going to create a lot of problems within an admittedly weakened labour movement, but it's going to create a devil of a lot of problems right across the board.
I want to pick you up on that phrase, a weakened labour movement. He wouldn't have made a statement like this unless he'd done a thorough risk assessment or a risk analysis. He is obviously banking, surely, on the fact that the labour unions themselves are weakened, that they don't have that much in their armoury.
The interesting thing is that the one sector of the labour movement that's less weakened than the others is the public sector unions. And they've all come together. You've got two of the biggest unions in the country, arguably the two biggest, are the National Education, Health and Allied Workers Union, which is allied to COSATU, which, as we know, is allied to the government or to the ANC. And we also have the Public Servants Association, they just call themselves PSA these days, who are also, these are unions with more than 250,000 members each. And they are in vital sectors right across the board. Yes, they have argued all along that management levels within the public sector are bloated, are overstaffed and overpaid. We do not have enough teachers, we do not have enough nurses, and they are generally poorly paid. So we needed, in fact, I think Tito Mboweni would have been happy if had a radical rethink of the entire macroeconomic policy. That hasn't happened, so we're in a mess. Acts of desperation, knee-jerk reactions, but all that's going to mean is there's going to be a lot more fraying of the social fabric, a lot more protests, a lot more demonstrations, and at least when they're done within the unions, they're generally well organized. But when you have, as we have, constant eruptions at local level, etc., I think we're going to see a lot more of that. That's very worrying.
Terry Bell, I thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is